All right, so we're seeing your comments there. Sounds like some of you guys might have a difficulty hearing. Some of you are hearing it just loud and clear. It might just be the room we're in. We did test all the technology like we told you guys we would. Unfortunately, we're going to do the best we can, and hopefully going forward it works out. So please bear with us. But for now, we're going to go ahead and move on to Corey Carlson, our field operations trainee.
Good afternoon, everyone. Corey Carlson, Operations Chief Trainee for Southwest Area Team 3. So I'll give you just around the horn in a clockwise direction, pretty much what happened on the fire today, and pretty much everything that's happened since we talked yesterday. So again, the fire was active today. Again, I would say estimated grew anywhere from 500 to 800 acres today. Not much progression. Most of the increase in acreage was areas, this horseshoe cleaning up, and then some areas up here that were just kind of cleaning themselves up, straightening themselves up, and a little bit of eastern progression, as well as a little bit of southern backing. So not much growth today, but certainly if you were in the surrounding areas this afternoon, you saw a pretty good column coming up. And that was just a result of the heavy dead and down, the beetle kill, and the heavy fuel loading in there. And you should continue to see that day after day for a while here. So I'll start down here in Division A, which is basically from here at the Darling Creek and Williams Fork, right here, and then it goes up to basically Boham Creek, and along County Road 30. So today in Division A, the Henderson Mill is still down in here. We still have a lot of engines and crews doing structure protection in there. No real threat at this time. This fire continues to just do good. It just backs down, and we're there to receive it if it was to cause us any problems. But so far so good. It's behaving itself, just backing down, and we have plenty of folks in and around County Road 30 at the structures, just monitoring that. So no issues with Henderson Mill. The fire is checked up here in Darling Creek. It's been there for a couple days now. It hasn't really wanted to cross over. We've been monitoring it from the air and ground, and it's just hanging tight here. So that's a good thing. We'll continue to monitor that. So as we move up here, I talked about it yesterday. We worked a hot shot crew, Type hot shots, along with 2 Type 1 heavy helicopters, trying to keep this piece in check, trying to keep any western or northwestern progression just halted right there. And so far that has paid off. The work that we spent yesterday, there's been really no movement from the fire north or west. So we pulled that crew out, and we had reassigned them to another area of the fire today, and we didn't fly any aviation on that. This whole northern piece, we put retardant on this several days ago. It hasn't really moved. It's just kind of hanging out there. Not going to say it's not going to move, but for now it's behaving. So as we come around into Division Echo, this was an area that we flew yesterday with the helicopter with our division group supervisors, just gathering intel, trying to piece together areas where there may be options to connect trails, roads, clear cuts, past fire scars, and just a change in fuels. So what we did today is we tied in with the incoming Type 1 team, and we talked about the intelligence that we gathered yesterday and tried to set them up for success. I do believe that they got in the helicopter to take a look for themselves, but we wanted to provide all the information that we had to them. So there was, basically this was in monitor status. It's a long way to get here. We have a lot of time to look at a lot of things and really game out what the risk is for firefighter safety in areas like this, and what kind of time and space we have to potentially get work done or not get work done based on fire behavior. So a lot of country to cover out here, still kind of piecing things together. So up in here, Division Sierra was once unstaffed. We monitored that from the air. We did have a structure protection group over in the Rocky Mountain Research Station, the Fraser Experimental Forest. They were doing assessments and doing a little bit of structure protection around the structures in there. They also started working around in some ranching, some private property areas, starting to assess some stuff that's south of Fraser and a little bit closer to the fire, but still a long way away. Like I mentioned yesterday, this is a little bit of an area of concern, this Bottle Pass, these two peaks. There is fuel that feeds up through Bottle Pass. The good news is on the backside of Bottle Pass, the fuels are not real favorable for fire growth. So things are looking good, and as you get further out, it flattens out and the fuels are much more conducive to firefighting and high probability of success. So I'm even more confident today than I was yesterday about fire, if it was to make it through Bottle Pass, being very successful on the backside of that. So again, long way to go, but feeling pretty good about stuff out there. And again, this Fire's Peak Wilderness and this green line, I don't know if you can see it, but this is all tundra wilderness. This doesn't want to burn. More than likely the fire will hold up here. It'll hold up here. There's a little sliver I talked about that it could get through here, but good opportunities there. So this fire is going to continue to move around for a while. It's going to continue to be active during the day. It's going to continue to clean up areas. And it's going to continue to move where slope, wind, and alignment set up. Down here in Division Zulu, again, we had a division group supervisor scouting a lot of options. I briefly tied in with him before I came in here, but he's finding areas where there's a high probability of firefighter success and where we could stop this fire. So overall, it was a good day. Quite a bit of cloud cover today, even a little bit of thunderstorms and some high winds that kind of pushed this thing around, but not really moved it around. So, and it did get pretty cloudy over the fire, and it kind of moderated activity. So, hopefully that answers a lot of your questions. If not, put them in the chat, and I'll get back to you. Thanks.
All right, so that's going to conclude our speaker portion of this meeting. So we're now going to open this up to the question and answer portion. So I know we're getting a couple already down in the comment section. Go ahead and start putting them down there. We've got plenty of time to answer some questions here. So we will have the Deputy Incident Commander that can speak. We can bring Corey back up here for operations questions. And then we also have an agency administrator, and the Grand County Sheriff is also available for questions. Try to keep these related to the fire and the specific things we've been covering. But go ahead and put those down in the comments, and we'll start getting those questions answered. So the first question, we're going to start with operations. So the question is, the winds were or seemed like they were very strong this afternoon. Is that the case? Is it harmful or helpful?
Yeah, so the winds today were pretty strong and erratic. That came from basically the thunderstorms. There was a little bit of virga and a little bit of rain falling in and around the fire area, but that was a direct result of just the thunderstorms in the area. I would say there were probably wind gusts, 10 to 15, maybe gusts over 20, a little bit erratic. So what that's going to do is areas that have activity, it's going to push it in directions where there's either slope alignment or some sort of topography that's going to want to funnel those winds. So that's going to be a real big concern in Darling Creek, where we're holding fire on a little bit of trail here and a little bit of creek. Those winds, if they're erratic, they're going to want to push that over Darling Creek. And I wouldn't be surprised if this hasn't moved a little bit just this afternoon. So the winds can help us sometimes, and they can also be a little bit of a pain. So we'll we'll see what happens this afternoon, but yeah, that's pretty much with the winds.
Next question, how many crews are on the ground and how many tanker planes are there?
So for crews, we have one hotshot crew and we have a couple fire modules. So I think we're showing 7 crews out on the fire. A lot of those crews are in and around the Henderson Mill area doing structure protection, setting up hose, pumps, getting ready to potentially do some structure protection. And then we have some crews up in the Rocky Mountain Research Station and some of the infrastructure in there doing the same thing. Running out hose, getting pumps ready, folded tanks that are filled with water. As far as air tankers, we haven't used any air tankers in the last couple of days. Things are just kind of holding where they're at. If this thing wants to move, we'll have to look for areas of opportunity. Typically, the air tankers, they'll buy us a little bit of time, but we have to be able to get in there on the ground with boots on the ground to be able to back that up. Otherwise, the fire will, eventually burn through that stuff.
So we don't have air tankers. What type of aircraft are on the fire?
So currently we have a couple helicopters. We have a Type 1 helicopter, which is the largest helicopter that we can get. It's got a long line and a bucket. Typically they hold about 750 to 1,000 gallons or more. So we have one of those assigned to the fire, and basically we're using them to check up fire, to keep it sitting in out of Darling Creek, kind of right here, keeping it from progressing northwest. And then some of the more active areas, we'll put a little bit of water on there. We've also been sharing a Type 1 helicopter, the same type, from the Cameron Peak fire, which is a little bit northeast of this fire. And then we have a local Type 3 helicopter, which is the smallest of the helicopters. And we use that for aerial reconnaissance, mapping. We'll put some operations folks in there to do some low-level recons to look at topographic features. So 2 aircraft assigned to the fire, and then we're borrowing 1 from Cameron Peak.
Okay. Next question is, does the fire follow prevailing winds?
Typically, the fire will move with the prevailing winds, and like I said, where slope and topography align, it likes to follow that too. So typically, with the strong winds, sometimes that can override the slope and topography. But when you get all 3 of those aligned, that's where you'll get some of the bigger fire runs. And I mentioned it yesterday, but a lot of this, as you get towards Fraser and Winter Park and some of where these other structures are, the ground and the topography and the slope alignment isn't really conducive to large fire runs. It's, you'll get some here and there, but it's just not really set up for that. And it's generally just not a southwest type push that we get around here. Winds have pretty much been out of the north and northwest, which also is more conducive to fire growth this way, but we've been able to keep it in check here for now.
We'll do one more and we'll give you a break. How much of the fuel contained within the current wildfire boundary has been fully burned?
Okay, so I think by the end of today we're going to show a little bit of containment on the map, which is going to be right in this area. This is feeling pretty good. A lot of this is burned. A lot of this is right near the road. Some of it's coal black is what we call it. We're not really concerned about it. It's fairly contained. We can move away from it. We can focus our efforts on some other areas. Probably this piece, as it continues to back down to County Road 30, would be the next area that we'd be looking at containment. And then this stuff is going to be, we got a ways. We got a lot of time. We got a lot of things to figure out before we can. There's not a lot of containment features out here. So still a ways to go to the north, the east, but we're starting to look pretty good down in this section.
All right, thank you, Corey. All right, our next question is going to be for our Deputy Incident Commander. Would the resources available to your team be different if there wasn't 3 other large fires in Colorado that I presume are competing for resources?
Well, I think there's, 3 other large fires in Colorado. Many other states have large fires as well. So on just a national basis, there's a lot of things going on and a lot of resources deployed across the U.S. So, it could be different if this was the only fire in Colorado, and it would be, much different if this was the only fire in the western U.S. that was burning. So, obviously the number of large fires that's burning now, has a direct impact on that, as well as the other local large fires. But they move resources around to try and get to the what we want. And it's also good for folks to remember that it's not just the large fires that draw the resources. Every day there's multiple initial attacks, new fires starting that we have to have resources to deal with that, or we'll just have a multitude of even more large fires. So, all the large fires have a direct impact across the nation. So not just to this fire.
So while we have you, can you explain what fire modules are?
Fire modules they're typically called wildland fire modules. They're typically a 10-person crew that they're usually a 10-person crew that we use a lot to manage natural starts and manage fires. They have a lot of specialized skills to do mapping and other resource data tracking. They do serve the same function as all the other firefighters. They have the same qualifications and they do the same job. There's just 10 people with a little bit of a different name.
All right, thanks. So the next question, that's going to be for our agency administrator, Kara Chadwick. So this question is along the lines of about the cause of this fire and how it started and what's being done in order to find that source, how it was caused, just what that process is going to look like or could look like.
Well, I don't know if I can tell you about the specifics of the cause, but we do know that it was human caused, but investigations done by trained fire investigators can take weeks, if not months, to really pinpoint the cause of the fire.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next question is going to be for Brett Schrotlin, Grand County Sheriff. So will, let's see, County Road 40 stay open?
So that'll probably be Highway 40.
Highway 40.
Highway 40, so at this point we have no plans to close Highway 40. That's our main thoroughway through Grand County in both directions, and the fire is a long, long way from Highway 40, and so Highway 40 will be staying open in both directions.
Okay. What is the likelihood of evacuation or problems for the Fraser Winter Park area?
So that is going to depend on the fire behavior specialist interpretations. I rely on operations, and we review that on a constant basis.
All right, thank you. We'll invite operations, field ops to come back up. So can you define slope alignment?
Okay, yeah, slope alignment is basically, okay, forgive me for this, but yeah, so if the slope's like this and we have a fire at the base of it, it's gonna wanna run up the slope. So if the slope is this steep and you got wind coming from the southwest and you have fire down here, it's gonna wanna run up that slope. And the more wind you have, going up slope, the faster it's gonna move that fire. So I know it's probably hard to see this map, but all these topo lines, identify slope. The tighter the lines, the steeper this country is. So and all these little creeks and drainages, all those, have a lot of slope involved with them, and wind likes to funnel through those slopes, and if you get fire into these drainages and these creeks, the fire wants to move. It's like a chimney. If you put your wood in a chimney and you light it, it wants to go up, where out the chimney. That's the best way I can put it. But yeah, this fire likes to follow the slope and it likes to follow the wind. So
Right.
that's not a great answer, but.
All right, what factor lends to most fire growth? Topography, fuel, or weather?
It really depends on this. On this one, it's going to be a little bit of everything. I mean, there's heavy fuel loading. I would say fuels are the primary driver on this fire. You have, not only do you have thick timber, but you have a considerable amount of beetle kill in here, and you have a considerable amount of dead and down fuels on the ground. So fuels are what's carrying this fire. You get some fire on some of these slopes with heavy fuels, and you get wind. That's just going to compound the situation. Like I said, those afternoon thunderstorms with those high winds, that's gonna push this fire in directions where there's more fuels, where the wind is blowing, and where there's steep slopes.
All right, next question. What would it take to extinguish this fire? Half inch of rain, snow?
Yeah, it's dry in Colorado. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I was driving out of here a couple hours ago, and it was a light rain on me. That's going to be gone tomorrow. It's going to dry out. It's going to take quite a bit of moisture. I would say, looking at the fuels and the topography and the fire activity, it's going to take some sort of a lot of rain or some sort of snow, in my opinion, to really extinguish these fires. These fires go on. This is a long duration fire. I'm not gonna lie. It's gonna take quite a bit of moisture to put this thing out. Certainly, if we could find some containment features and corral this thing, that's gonna lessen the growth. But it's gonna take a while to, extinguish all the smokes and for this fire to be completely extinguished.
All right, thank you. All right, next question is going to be for Grand County Sheriff. All right, for you, Brett, what would need to happen for the current pre-evac area to go to full evac?
Okay, so we actually had a discussion today with operations staff. I'm going to reference you up here to the upper right-hand corner of the map. So we have created what's called a management action point that operations alerts me to when we reach that trigger point. If we reach that trigger point, our current pre-evacuation zone number 1 will become an evacuation zone, and that will also trigger pre-evacuation in areas 1, 3, and 7.
3, 4, and 7.
3, 4, and 7. Let me correct myself. 3, 4, and 7 of our evacuation zones will go into pre-evacuation, and area 1, which is currently in pre-evacuation, will go into evacuation.
Thank you. All right, so it looks like we've answered most of the questions in there. If we missed one or two, we've got public information officers going back and reviewing that right now. So if we weren't able to answer your question tonight during this meeting, we'll try and get you that answer there in the comments section. So just check back. So continue to